So thanks to the great team at Watchung Booksellers. Thanks to Margot and Catherine for putting this on, and thanks also to Rich for coming and showing up. It shows those Coughlin era Giants teams were all about loyalty, all about being there for each other. This is one of many examples. Coach's pediatric cancer charity, the J Fund. These guys do anything at the drop of a hat for him, and it's a tremendous thing that they're all a part of, and it's a tremendous testament to the values that Coach Coughlin has instilled in these guys. And of course, thank you so much, Coach Coughlin, for joining us. Welcome to Montclair virtually. So I'll start off.
Greg, I think Rich came tonight. He was looking for the guy who does the marquees at the Empire State Building. I think Rich was looking for his guy. Maybe
Hopefully, you guys, right? Because they lit it up in green last week. We all know that.
Public enemy number one. Yeah. That guy. So I'll start off by asking some questions to Coach, and I don't want to take too much of his time because I want to open up the floor to all of you. But Coach, you say in the book, referring to Super Bowl XLII, that before the game, you thought to yourself that somebody has to play above the X's and O's. And many people did, but kind of most famously, that person that emerged was David Tyree. He didn't look like he would be that guy a couple days before the game in the last live practice. Tell us about David's practice before the Super Bowl, and then tell us about what Eli said to him and the significance of that for what it said about Eli and what it said about your team.
Well, David Tyree was a great special teams, or all-pro special team player. And we used David in short yardage and goal line because he's a tough guy, and he would get in there and he would block for us. And we knew also going into the Patriot game that the Patriots would look at David Tyree coming on the field and think run. So we set up our Friday practice, which was, short yardage, goal line, and we were working in the goal line area. But David had probably the worst practice anybody's ever seen. The ball hit him in the helmet, it hit him in the face mask, he couldn't catch anything. And it was almost comical if it wasn't for what the stakes were as we watched this thing unfold. So the guys were kind of keeping their cool and nobody was really getting upset or excited about it. So once the practice was over, Eli went over to David Tyree, and this was Eli. He put his arm around him and he said, David, look, it wasn't a great day today, but don't worry. When the chips are on the line, you will come through for us. And that's the way we left it. And we had some fun with the way David practiced, but we were all praying that was the last that we were going to see of that kind of performance. And lo and behold, we get in the game. Everybody knows about the catch, but do you all remember that David Tyree also scored a touchdown? He caught a touchdown pass on the goal line. He came in the game. They played run, play action pass, boom, and we stuck the pass in there, and David caught the ball. So in addition to his performance, which was, he has made the greatest catch in the history of the Super Bowls was made by David Tyree. But he also scored a touchdown in that game as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the helmet catch, everyone talks about it. I don't think that people really appreciate how great of a catch that was. I think sometimes people attribute it to luck. It wasn't luck at all, and you've been very eloquent, you've been very forceful on what a great catch that was. Can you talk about that and what that says about David as a competitor?
Yeah, it upsets me greatly when people try to say that it was a fluke or a lucky catch. It was not a lucky catch, that was a great catch. Because when the ball was thrown, the circumstances were the ball is snapped and three Patriot defensive linemen are right on Eli. And from where I'm standing, Mike Carey, the official, the referee, is standing right here off to my left. And I'm thinking, Mike, don't blow this play dead, because that's how serious it was. They had him wrapped up. He was wiggling to get out of it. David Tyree was going to the post. He was just an auxiliary receiver on that, clearing the safety area out. Well, when Eli was trapped and he subsequently wiggled his way out, the scramble rule was for David Tyree running a post to come back to the quarterback, and that's what he did. And Eli scrambled up and launched the ball like you'd throw a javelin up in the air. And my next thought was, oh my God, don't overthrow the ball in the middle of the field. You overthrow the ball in the middle of the field, it's intercepted, that's the end of the drive. So David Tyree, who has Rodney Harrison, a man who has an outstanding safety, but 6'2", probably 215, which is a good 20 pounds heavier than David Tyree. But David Tyree went up as the ball descended, and he got his hands way up above his head, and with both hands, he caught the football. Okay? Now Harrison's going up with him. Big, strong kid. And Harrison takes one of David's arms away as David catches the ball. David had the wherewithal to pin the ball to his helmet, okay? Harrison then subsequently went down and fell across his knees, across the bottom of his legs. And anybody that's ever played touch football in the backyard or whatever, someone goes across the back of your legs, forget the ball. You're gonna go into the preservation mode and you're gonna try to save your knees. Not David Tyree. He went down with the ball, he two-handed the ball. In the meantime, Harrison is still trying to knock the ball out of his hand, but he could not get David Tyree to let go of the ball. He caught the ball, it was a legitimate catch, and it is the greatest catch in the history of the Super Bowls. And it took me a long time to teach David Tyree that catch.
One great story that I had never heard, one of many that I had never heard before talking to you, was the story of what Michael Strahan said to you in the middle of the game. It's the third quarter. The defense stops the Patriots around midfield. Patriots punt, but and I'll say this, Coach, so that this is me. Belichick pulls some Belichickian Belichickness and runs, switches the formation in a way that was technically legal, but not in keeping with the spirit of the rules, and catches the Giants with 12 men on the field. Chase Blackburn sprints off and doesn't quite get there, get to the sideline in time. So it's a 12-man penalty on the Giants. It keeps the drive going, and Coach, I'll let you take it from here.
Well, subsequently, you have to understand that as in most of the way that the NFL operates, the rule was changed after the significance of this play. And we're very fortunate the way that our defense responded, because that could have been the significant penalty in the game. It was 4th and 4. The penalty, being 12 men on the field, meant that they had made the first down. The ball is very near midfield. It's near our 45-yard line is where the ball is. But what happens now is that we ran, we're thinking we're running our punt return team out, and the Patriots are still standing there with an offensive team on the field. So what you do is you simply say defense stays, and a punt returner comes out and the safety comes off. That's the way the play is conducted. Well, as soon as they saw what we had done, they sent their punt team out on the field, and the offensive team ran off. The job of the middle linebacker is to count the number of plays on the special team at that time. Chase Blackburn counted 12, and his job is to get off the field if we have 12 people on the field. So you can see what the whole thing was, to trap us with more people on the field than the substitution that the Patriots made. Chase Blackburn got about 1 yard from the sideline, and the ball was snapped, and the flag was thrown. Okay? Now the red line in my face is going up, 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 up. I mean, I'm going to get after it, because I'm looking for an official to chew on, because it's not a penalty, okay, but it is not within what we'll call the ethics of the rule, but that didn't make any difference. What made difference was it was called a penalty. It was a penalty at that time. Rule was later changed. As I'm getting really heated up looking for an official to chew on. I look next to, up slides 92 next to me. He's just standing there. He's looking at the field, not looking at me. And he says, Coach, we've been through a lot tougher situations than this in the past. And that's all he said. Now you got to remember, this is a defensive player having just stopped the Patriots on about the 44-yard line, as a matter of fact, who knows that he's going to have to go back on the field, okay, to stop them. They're in great field position after pulling the shenanigan of a penalty. Out goes our defensive team. 3rd down, okay? Here we go. 3rd down, big down. Who sacks the quarterback? Strahan. Now it's 4th down. They go for it. They throw a ball meaninglessly out of the end zone with the pass rush. Nobody's open. Everybody's covered. They come away in that situation with no points. That is a way it's determined who wins and who loses. Plays and sequences just like that. Defensive stop, penalty, defense comes out, no, feeling sorry for themselves, and again gets the job done with the key guy being the one that was in my ear making, and what he did, he jumped the snap. He timed up Brady's shotgun snap. Boom, he comes off just as the ball's being snapped, and he literally runs right around the right tackle who had no chance.
At the age
Makes the play.
at the age of 38, a 38-year-old guy, no less. And Coach in the book calls Michael Strahan the greatest natural leader he's ever been around. So you all came. I'm sure some of you have questions to Rich and Coach. So let's open up the floor to some questions. I'll take the webcam and point them. Anyone with because I got a lot of questions. I'm a journalist. That's what I do.
Ask Richie a question. Ask Rich a question.
Well, I actually have a question for you, Coach.
Good, ask him. I don't think
So-
that's working. You gotta point the computer out.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Speak loud so you can hear you.
Yeah.
Coach is getting old.
So am I. Coach,
Yeah, you can't hear that. See?
so last game of the season, regular season, make a decision to play all the starters, come out, play a great game against the Patriots, come up 3 points short, but we give up 38 points. What adjustments did you make from that game, fast forward to the Super Bowl, where the defense played such a phenomenal game, held them to 14? What were the adjustments?
Well, first of all, let me say this. It was both teams. The score was 38-35. Okay, they beat us with one of the Brady long pass to Moss. They beat us. We come off the field. We know we can play with them. Both teams had this tape to study. Both teams are very well manned defensively, and both teams are, have excellent coaching staff. And they're looking at this literally based on our experience in that game and then what we had coming forward. What we did is, and it's no secret because I tell it every time, people want to know, okay, what was the real science behind it? Knock the quarterback down.
It's a simple game.
Knock Brady down. We sacked him 5 times, we knocked him down 16 times. We hit him as hard as you could hit him on the very first play of the game. We hit him in that 38-second deal at the end of the game. As hard as you could hit a guy, he's a tough son of a gun. But I'll tell you what, you knock the quarterback down enough, you don't give him his soft spot. You don't let him stay in his spot. You move him off the spot, you got a greater chance. And that, in reality, is what we did. Steve Spagnuolo was our new defensive coordinator. We start the season, we gave up 80 points in the first 2 games. Remember that? But Steve was a great maneuverer of the pressure game, okay? Jim Johnson was his mentor, the great defensive coordinator of the Philadelphia Eagles during Andy Reid's stay. And this is where Spags came from. And that's quite frankly one of the reasons I was attracted to him when we hired him. But he came up with a great plan, it was well executed, the pressure was on the quarterback, and it was a game in which you had the greatest offense in the history of the National Football League. I believe they had 288 yards total offense.
Yeah, they averaged 425 or something, and these guys held them to 288. I mean, unbelievable. Questions for yes?
Yeah. What would you attribute coach's best quality in motivating pro players who are paid a lot of money and under contract? How does he? What was unique about him in getting players to play up to their potential?
Coach Coughlin was a fair coach, right? It didn't matter if you were me, a rookie free agent trying to make the teams every year, or the first pick in the draft. He was going to treat us all the same. And I think his competitive nature, right? Being 5 minutes early, everything about him made me the player that I was and the coach that I am today. Like, I try to hold my high school kids the same way he held me accountable to being accountable on the field. So I think the way coach showed that he wanted to win games and how much time and effort he put into it, how could we not want to play for a coach like Coach, right? I'm here today because of Coach, right? If this was any other coach, I didn't play for many of them. I had Coach Fossil and Coach Coughlin, right? And I would do anything for this man because what he showed me in my 7 years with him in New York.
Thanks.
Yep.
I have another one. Who was your favorite teammate?
My favorite teammate is Chris Snee. I was the left guard, Snee was the right guard. Coach, you can abide by this one. I taught Chris everything he knows. He just did it a little better. Our kids are pretty much the same age. I don't see him as much as I would like. I told you guys before I spoke to him coming up here. I said, "What? You were busy tonight? Coach didn't want you to come for his book thing." But Chris Snee, Sean O'Hara, right? Those guys in the middle that I played with for all those years, they're my best friends.
Who'd you like to fight?
It was a great group. It was a great group. That offensive line in 2008, we ran the ball. We were without a doubt the most mechanized offensive line in football in 2008.
Yeah, we don't want to talk about 2008. He asked who I'd like to fight with. Anybody on the other on defense, preferably like the first round pick or a high draft pick. My favorite fight was JPP, Snee, and Coach O'Brien. I got yelled at in practice for this one, right? Because we were going to the new stadium for the first practice, and Coach Coughlin was like, "And there's no fighting. There's going to be a crowd there. There's no fighting." Well, Snee, during team period, shoves JPP into my back. So I turn around and JPP standing there smiling. And obviously we're going to fight. But nobody, remember, Coach, you remember that fight? I know he does. But nobody on the defense helped JPP because he was a rookie. He needed to be taught a lesson, right? How to work properly and how to, be nice to the vets and all that stuff. But Snee started that fight. And I believe after he yelled at me for about 3 minutes in practice and made me go sit out for a couple plays, we watched the film and he came down and he goes, "Chris started that fight." So he admitted to his mistakes. Go ahead.
Who was the hardest defender since you played on the offensive line, since you would go up against
They're all good.
what?
The hardest one ever
Yeah.
was Albert Hainsworth before he got his money, went to Washington.
Yeah.
So when Albert Hainsworth was in Tennessee, right before he got paid all that money, $9 million. Once he went to Washington, he kind of didn't like those coaches. He didn't play hard. But Albert prior, my first year playing was 2002. My first start was against San Fran, and Dana Stubblefield and Brian Young were the 2 D tackles. Right, so I played those guys. My first, it was Thursday Night Football, the first Thursday night game here in New York. And after that game, I'm like, "Oh, they're good, but they're not great." And we played them again in the playoffs, and I'm like, "Oh, they're pretty good." Right, so those 2 guys were two good football players. I had them early in that year and late, so everybody's good.
Any other? I got a bunch of questions. Any questions from the crowd? Let's do some word association. I'll go to both of you, and I'm going to throw out some names and Coach. First thing that pops into your head, then we'll go to Rich. Eli Manning,
Winner.
Michael Strahan,
Leader.
Osi,
Smooth.
Tuck,
Another big play guy. Big game guy.
Definitely those 2 playoff runs. It's some of the best in the history of the team.
Of the league. I mean, who played better than Justin Tuck?
Absolutely. O'Hara,
Mr. Locker Room. He and Richie, they celebrated in the locker room.
Richie
They
was good.
busted everybody's chops. It was total humility when they got done with people.
Yeah.
That's back when it was still legal. Like the bullying part of football.
Okay, Richie. I'll go with you. Eli.
Stud.
Strahan.
Leader. Strahan's he's one of the best leaders I ever played with.
And what was that like in practice? Like, how did he kind of bring out, like, when the stars of the team, when the highest paid guys on the team are Eli and Strahan, how does that sort
Well,
of...
Strahan, when I was a rookie, I was a third team right tackle, probably not making the team. And being the third team right tackle, who did I get to go against?
Oof.
Michael Strahan. Right? So Michael Strahan would kick my ass, and then, sorry for swearing, and then he would tell me how I could get better. Right? That's being a leader. So guys that could beat you up in practice, but then also give you pointers on how to get better and why I was doing stuff wrong. Eli, calm, cool, collective, right? Nothing ever fazed him. He could throw 4 picks against Minnesota, or he could throw 4 touchdown passes, and it looked like the same guy, right? Nothing ever got to Eli, and I love him to today, even though my basketball team, my daughter's team, beats his daughter's basketball team every time we play.
Greg, I think the best thing when you talk about Richie, when you talk about Sean, when you talk about Strahan, is they could dish it out, but they could take it too. See, that's the thing that has to happen. You can't be so sensitive that you're going to react in a negative or selfish way just because somebody has put you in a position where everybody believes you're embarrassed or whatever. But because of that and the way they conducted themselves, they not only dished it out, but they could take it, and that was a great setting for our locker room. Now the other thing that Strahan did is, even Strahan was in my office about 2 weeks after I got the job, and he was not a very happy camper. Coughlin's a no good son of a gun, and he's blah 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 blah. But Strahan practiced full speed. He ran to the ball every snap. He ran to the ball, and they would compete. He and the OC would compete on who could get to the quarterback first. And that kind of effort, coming from those kind of players, was a tremendous example for the young.
Yeah, you talk in the book about the defensive line room and just the energy in that room, and also just how impressive, those guys who kind of powered the upset were, how impressive they are as human beings. Strahan obviously is everywhere. OC is doing stuff with the NFL Africa program. Tuck is working at Goldman Sachs and got his business degree. Talk about the energy in that room and just kind of the special group of people.
First of all, that should be a soundproof room. Because if I walk by that room, I can't believe the noise that's coming out of it. They would literally sit at opposite sides of the room from each other, and they always had a board where they fined each other. If a guy didn't run to the ball, he got fined. But it was banter back and forth. And I mean, you had to, you'd open the door real quick, and they'd be busting each other's chops, or the noise would be loud. And I mean, they learned their assignments, they knew their job, but they conducted themselves in those meeting rooms. If they got somebody on one another, that was it. I mean, you were going to get fried that particular day. It's kind of like what Richie did in the offensive line room, but he would tone it down when it came to, to learning or to studying or to talking to one another in that room about how they were going to execute and how they were going to block that defensive front.
Richie, was that something in practice going up against those guys? Like, the strengths of the team were the trenches, and it's no coincidence you guys practice against each other. I would think that they made you better, you made them better.
We did. We fed off each other, right? You don't know as good as who you practice against. And like you said, Strahan and OC, Tuck, right? Those guys going 100 miles an hour in practice only made us better. We had a good group. We had a good O-line because we in my mind, we played well together. Right? We had some really good pieces to that puzzle, but we also had some, like myself, a free agent that had to earn everything he had. Sean was a free agent, came from, free agent in Cleveland, came to New York. Awesome player. Deal was playing to my right and Kareem over on the right. Dave on the left, Kareem on the right. But, we knew what we were going to do, right? And we would, have those personal battles in practice with our defensive front during the one-on-ones or during the team periods. And we made each other better, right? Competition is what makes you better. The better competition you have, the better you're going to be as a person. And we got after it in practice now.
And just the cohesiveness of that line, and I know we not talking about '08, but the regular season, we could talk about the regular season '08. That was like the best offensive line that any of us have ever seen, and just sort of seeing that line come together. How does that work? How does a line become
Coach Flaherty,
more than the sum of its parts?
our O-line coach, right? I know he coached with Coach Coughlin, the New York Giants, pretty much the entire career, right, Coach? You had Coach Flass as your O-line coach. I think he was one of the best O-line coaches in the league. I love him like a father. I love him like a brother. Like he's like my, an uncle. I don't know what you want to call him. We talk to this day. He made us who we were, right? He created that group in that room where we had fun, but we also got the work in. We enjoyed playing for each other. We enjoyed hanging out with each other. We enjoyed watching film with each other. We enjoyed being together. I think that's what makes you a good group, right? You can have all the individuals in the world, but if you can't get along and enjoy each other, like really enjoy each other, you're not going to play for each other. And like I came back to New Jersey because I wanted to be closer to my buddies, and those are my buddies.
So you were, as an offensive lineman, I think you were there in that famous NFL Films clip when we talked about Strahan being the great leader that he was. That famous clip when he sings 17-14 is the final score, fellas. Believe it and it will happen. Do you remember that? Or do you just remember watching the film?
And we all knew what we were going to do, right? Like he told us that just to reinforce it. But I think it was the night before we were having either the pregame meal or maybe the breakfast of the day. I don't, those days are all a blur, right? Leading up to it. But would you rather be down by 3 when you need a field goal to tie it, or down by 4 and you want to win it, right? And I think everybody at the table said you'd rather be down by 4 and you have to score a touchdown. Like you want to win the game. You don't want to kick a field goal to tie it. And, there was no doubt in our minds what we were going to do. And when Strahan came by us and said it, it just gave us confidence, right? And the more confidence you can have going into the last drive, the better. That's him being a leader, right? Like he went into his ear and said, "Hey, we got this, coach." He came to us and says, "You guys got this." Trust, right? Faith in each other.
Coach, talk about the hotel at what Troy Aikman called the Tom Coughlin Hotel and the significance of that just in terms of your preparation, also sort of what it said about, what the NFL thought about you guys, what the NFL thought about the Patriots who were in downtown Phoenix.
Well, we were very much aware of the fact that, to the NFL and basically to the world, it was just a matter of going through the game that had already been settled. The Patriots were in downtown Phoenix, as they should be. They were 18-0. They had, all the fanfare. They had all the media. They had everybody there. We were 14 miles away in the middle of the desert, but I liked it. I liked it that way because the first night we were in town, our guys went out and found, restaurants and places to eat. But I think after that first night, most of our team thought, you know what, I'm not leaving here. We got restaurants right here. We can enjoy ourselves here. We don't have to drive 14 miles. So we stayed basically together, even though exactly where we were. But that was just part of it. And then when the production meeting took place, Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, it was Fox. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that Fox had our Super Bowl 42 and Fox has 57, okay? Glendale, Arizona is one of my 2 favorite cities in the world, okay? And their Super Bowl is at Glendale again with that group, and Fox has it again. But it was Joe Buck and it was Troy Aikman. And they came into the production meeting and Troy Aikman said to me, "Did you pick this hotel, Coach? This looks like a Tom Coughlin hotel." And certainly it was, out in the middle of nowhere. And we liked it that way.
Yeah, one of the great stories in the book that I love is the '04 season when you replaced Warner with Eli, and he had a rough go of it, and 5 or 6 games in or whatever, things kind of really kind of hit rock bottom. Philly, he had a terrible game. Then he goes to Baltimore, and they throw the kitchen sink of blitzes at him, and he has a really rough go of it. And obviously with the New York media, all the negativity and the skepticism about whether he was worthy of the #1 pick, that's reaching fever pitch. And then he takes it upon himself to come into your office the next day or the following week. If you could, tell these people the story, I think that is really kind of a defining moment in the franchise history.
We had back-to-back games, one against Washington, one against Baltimore, and both teams just blitzed us. Anytime you got a rookie quarterback, the rookie quarterback's gonna get blitzed. But Eli lost his cool. He couldn't react quick enough, couldn't get the ball out of his hand. Just was having a very frustrating night, a very terrible night, and he knew it, and the rest of us knew it. But from my standpoint, you got to go through it. Kurt started the season. Kurt Warner started the season, and we went along. We were actually, I think we were 4-3. We went to Arizona. We did not play well, and our offense was not very good. We had Eli on the sideline. Kurt had legitimately beat him out in preseason. Eli had assignments every week to prepare himself. He had to draw all the blitzes. He had to stand next to us on the sideline with the earpiece in, and he knew the plays. He knew what was going in. He got a chance to rehearse it in his own mind, et cetera, et cetera. So I made the change, and it did not go well. I mean, thank God we won the last game of the year, but the move didn't go well. And in those 2 weeks, the frustration mounted, okay? Now, it's nothing for someone to come to New York and be criticized and be questioned. And I will tell you this story. The first practice of the first minicamp, the first rookie minicamp after the draft, Eli went out, didn't have a great day. He didn't even know the cadence. He had not even ever taken a snap. We go on the field at practice. He doesn't throw the ball that well that day. Ball doesn't spin real well. The next day, the media is questioning his ability to throw the ball. I mean, that's just New York. Whatever, not give the guy a week. Let him learn a little bit about the system. Let him get the cadence down. Let him work with the center. Something. No. Eli Manning has a terrible day, and blah 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 blah. So, when he comes in to me after those 2 ball games, come in my office on a Monday morning, early in the morning. He comes in, he sits down. He's obviously very upset. He's very moved, and he tells me that he knows he did not play well, but he knows he can be the quarterback of the New York Giants, and we can win, and he wants to be a part of it, and he wants an opportunity to continue. And fortunately, it worked out that way. I don't know, some of you may not remember, but the last game of the year, we beat Dallas at home. When I went we end up with a change of play by Eli at the line of scrimmage, balls 2-yard line or whatever, Rich, you might remember. And he checks to a run, the run scores, it's a touchdown, we win the game. If we didn't score on that particular play, we would have lost the game. But that gave us a little impetus for the off season because we won the last game of the year. Eli had made progress, and the rest is history.
I have a question.
Yes.
It's an opinion question. When I'm watching football, I grew up in New York. I didn't particularly watch a lot of football, but now I'm watching more football. Why do those commentators talk and talk and talk? There's never a moment of rest. Why is it like I see what's going on, and some of the commentary, of course, is important to me because I'm learning as I'm going along. There's never silence. Do they feel that they have to talk all the time? And sometimes it's not even, it's just nonsense. It's just like, do they do it to hear themselves talk?
Ask Richie. Richie will answer.
Thanks,
I mean, I'm
Coach.
thinking of one particular station.
Which announcer is it? Do you know his name?
Oh, what's his name?
The cowboy guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't like those people.
Yeah.
Listen, I usually.
I wanna turn it off.
I just watch the Red Zone channel now, right? So I get to see all the games. Or I'll listen to the radio when the Giants are playing, and I'll listen to Bob Papa. in Muscle
Okay.
Giants way.
Do they get
We
paid
used to
more
do that
money?
with Marty Glickman.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
reporters love to hear themselves. Like
Oh.
Sean O'Hara is a great, like I love Sean to death, but he loves to hear himself talk too. He'd be a great reporter.
It's endless.
Endless. They just keep rambling on.
No one ever says to them, you talk too much?
No.
I think I have to own this.
Johnson.
As a member of the media, I think this is actually me that
This
I
is
have
you.
to own this. Yeah, I don't know. My only answer to that, it's America. Everyone wants to consume, and you know, it's our culture. We put out a lot of crap. We consume a lot of crap. It's rapid fire. We just need to, you know, just pop out
It's
opinions left and right.
Wonderful.
and
Which one is it? There's three of them.
give the people what we think they want.
Johnson.
Catherine.
Fullback.
This is for Greg and Coach. So in writing the book, I'm sure you had to drop some great stories and memories. Anything that didn't make it into the book that you could share?
I think one thing on the cutting room floor, Coach had a incredibly successful run in Jacksonville and pulled off one of the bigger upsets in the history of the playoffs when his upstart Jaguars in their second year of existence, having squeaked into the playoffs at 9-7, beat John Elway's Denver Broncos the year before they went and won the 2 consecutive Super Bowls, and they were the dominant team in the league that year. And that was a moment where you saw that a Coughlin team could pull off something that that people didn't expect. We talked about the Boston College. I see the gentleman in the BC hat. We talked about Coach's BC upset over Notre Dame, which is a game that people remember where they were when that happened. It was so shocking in the same way as the Patriots Super Bowl upset. That was one we didn't get into, and much of his tenure in Jacksonville, which was incredibly successful, we just had a finite amount of space. So that's
That wasn't the purpose of the book. We really did zoom in on one game, and to Greg's credit, we evaluated snaps, we took drives, we took them apart. We did the utmost minutest detail in the book, and we added the personalities, and we added all the circumstances surrounding the game to give it more flavor, and I think that we accomplished that. But the purpose of the book, quite frankly, was not to, we alluded to the playoffs, for example, and the playoffs were a story in themselves. The Green Bay game and the Dallas had beaten us twice during the regular year. We beat them. Jerry Jones gave the 2 tickets out. We mentioned it, but our purpose was not really to dwell on it.
I have a question for Coach. What do you think was the most difficult point of the 2007 season?
Most difficult point? Well, it started out 0-2. That wasn't very good. We won six straight after that. Then in the second half of the year, it seemed like we could wrap up the playoffs forever, and yet we wouldn't get it done. When Washington came in and beat us with a backup quarterback, that was a little wake-up call right there. And I was irate over the way we played. We didn't play like a team that had understood the idea that if we won, we're in the playoffs. We just didn't. We played like somebody that said, "Oh, we'll get it next week." And so, those were moments during the course of the season where, and I think in particular, the Washington game, when I came into the players, and I just treated them like it was a board meeting. I didn't. They expected to get their butts ripped, and they should have in normal circumstances because of the way we played. But I just said, "Gentlemen, hey, we have 2 games to go. I suggest we go to Buffalo and win to get into playoffs, because if we don't, we got to play the undefeated Patriots just to have the right to play in the playoffs." And I turned around and walked out of the room. And but those were significant events, I think, in the outcome of what transpired for us getting into playoffs, and then the march that we put on. We were the road warriors. We won 11 games on the road that year. We were not fazed by playing on the road. As a matter of fact, the old adage about circle the wagons, we came together significantly on the road and played extremely well.
All right.
Yes, in the back.
I just have a question about with the news this past 24 hours of the second retirement. Rich, how does it feel to be essential to an asterisk on Tom Brady's resume?
Listen, Tom Brady's, one of the best to ever play the game, so God bless him. I'm glad my one Super Bowl win was against those guys, and they were undefeated, right? It makes it that much more special. So good luck to Tom in retirement, right? He made my life a lot better, so thank you.
The Big Blue View, I wanted to actually point out, this is the best Twitter account of them all. This is the gentleman behind Big Blue View, who cuts up Giants tapes from, the 60s and the CBS intros with Madden and Summerall and the great calls that Madden has made through the years, and this is the best. All Giants fans should follow Big Blue View. Coach, these are the ones that I send you, with 15 years,
Right.
Lawrence Tynes field goal. Anyway.
Yeah. My VCR, Big Blue CR.
I'm sorry, yes, Big
I
Blue
know Big
VCR.
Blue you guys.
Yeah.
So Coach, I have a question for you. Boston College, we actually overlapped because I graduated in '96 from BC, and I know where I was in '93. I was jumping around Walsh Hall when we beat Notre Dame. The question I have though is, at the end of '92 season, the rumor was you were going to be the coach of the Giants. You were the lead candidate, but you decided to stay at Boston College. What was the reason for that? And was it because Notre Dame ran up the score on us and they did a fake punt when it was 38-0, and Lou Holtz just like whatever, 52-7 was the final score of that game. What was the reason why you decided to stay at BC and not take the shot at the Giants job in '93?
Because in my heart, I came to Boston College to make them a winner once again. They lost for 5 years in a row, and we got our rear ends kicked in the bowl game against Tennessee. They drilled us, and I had a lot of work to do. I had a lot of work still to do, and I honestly felt like I could not leave at that time because my team was not in a position where I could leave.
All right. Yes, Jerry.
Yeah. This is really for all three of you. What's the best advice you guys received in your life that got you guys to be where you got today?
Be on time. That's mine.
Which means 5 minutes early.
Yeah, be on time. Be on time to class. All right. Be on time to work. Be on time for your job. Be on time.
Oh, that's a tough one. My parents are in the audience. Maybe they have something to say. I don't know. I'll pass. I didn't win any Super Bowls, so I'm gonna cop out there.
You still get great advice at home. I would say that probably the one thing that shook me most was when I was a sophomore in high school. We played a rival team and we got beat. And I came home. I usually went in the back door. For some reason, I went in the front door. I opened the door. My father's standing there looking at me, and he said simply, "If that's all the effort you're going to put into playing football, then you might want to think about a better use of your time." That shook me.
Yeah, I want to just note something the coach wrote about Rich in the book, and he's talking about Rich's, and I mean this as a compliment, the nasty skin graft that you have from your injury, which I think was your right leg, and coach wrote, the skin graft on his right leg might as well have been another metaphor for our team. We've been through a lot, and sometimes it looked ugly, but we kept fighting no matter what. And Rich, I want you to respond to that. And what does that sort of mean, that you and what you went through, and how?
I'm just glad you noticed the skin graft. No, it's no matter what life throws at you, right? You just got to keep fighting. And I think that was our team in '07. We won 11 games in a row. We were bad at home. Coach said it. We went to a hotel in the middle of the desert. We went out the first night, but we didn't want to go out anymore. We wanted to be together. And I think, as bad as it was, some of those games, like, we always kept fighting, and that fight got us to the ultimate championship, right? So, yeah, I broke my leg in '03. the doctor said I was done playing. Coach came in 04, right? So I'd be sitting, it'd be me and Ron Dane, right, working out from when the season ended till when everybody else came in. And I knew I wasn't going to probably play that next year because they told me I wasn't going to play. I think it was me, you, Jerry Palmieri, the strength coach, and Ron, right? Until you hired the rest of your staff. And
That was it.
That was it. And you just, I think that's when Coach saw that I had a little bit of fight in me, and I wanted to come back and play, and I loved the game of football. And football for me was pretty much all I had, right? My parents owned a restaurant back in Wisconsin. I loved them to death, but I didn't want to go work at the restaurant. So it was either make it or go get a real job. And I put the time and effort in to make the team, and I became a player again. And I think that was our 07 season. Like, we never gave up. We kept fighting.
What was that mentality? Oh, I'm sorry, Coach. Go ahead. You were going to say.
No, that's well said. I can't add to that. That's what you're looking for, in an individual. And I have to tell you that one of the things you sitting in the room have to understand is, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, no matter what walk of life you're in, you have to understand you're not going to be evaluated when things are going well. You're going to be evaluated when things are not going very well. Who are you? What are you made out of? What are you going to do to help your teammates when things aren't going well? That's what Richie always meant to me, was a guy that never ever gave up and just kept fighting. Heck, one year we moved him to center. He should have been the all-pro center. He did that good a job of it.
And by 07, and there had been, so much kind of adversity and acrimony from the year before, just the way the season, kind of went down the drain with those injuries, that by 07 you guys were kind of like out the other side of that. And did you guys sort of feel that? Did you sort of have like a bulletproof thing, like where you just sort of felt, you individually with your injuries and just what the team had gone through, that that whatever they throw at us, like, we can stick together and handle this?
We had that feeling up front, right? I think, like, we didn't care what people thought about us. Like, all we cared about was what Coach thought about us and what we thought about each other. And all the outside stuff, I never liked the media anyways, like you. I was always the next guy out. So for me, it was motivation. And I think we all collectively had that little chip on our shoulder. We wanted to prove everybody wrong, right? Like, we were 0-2. Think about it. We were 0-2 going to Washington, and they had us beat, right? We need to stop them on the goal line. Our defense came through and stopped them. If we don't stop them right there, we're not sitting here today talking about your book, right? There is no book. So,
Right.
like, no matter what happened, we always found a way to get the job done, right? Like Tyree's catch. Like a coach said it before. It wasn't a lucky catch. Like, that's what we're paid to do, is make plays. And Tyree, yes, he had a bad week of practice, but it didn't affect him in the game. He continued to work hard and he played, right? Like, that play never would have happened if it wasn't for me and Sean giving up the pressure. So I'm like, Tyree gets all the credit, but the offensive line should have got most of it. Because what if we didn't give up pressure and he doesn't throw it down the middle of the field and Tyree doesn't catch that ball, right? So no matter what was thrown at us that year, like, we didn't care. Like, we didn't care that we didn't win games at home. We did, but, like, we just moved on to the next week, and we wanted to go on the road, because when we were on the road, it was just us, right? And there's no better feeling than winning on the road when everybody's booing and that crowd is silent, and it's just you and you beat them at their place. Like, it's awesome. And that playoff run we had, right, going to Tampa, going to Dallas, going to Green Bay, and, like, that was cool, right? The last one, we knew we were going to win, because I think the first three were harder than the last one. Like, getting there is the hardest part. Once we were there, we're like, oh, let's go win it. And Coach had the game plan, right? Coach got his first In-N-Out burger.
I did.
Spilt it down his shirt, but hey, it was good. It was good.
What was it like when he took over in 04 and just that changing of the guard after the team had kind of bottomed out in 03? New coach.
Listen, I was in a different. I was on IR, so
Yeah.
I thought I was gone every day. Like, I'm not gonna lie, when your head coach walks by and kind of gives you a look and keeps walking, You're like, oh, here we go, right? But I loved it, right? I wouldn't want anybody else to coach the team I was on. He changed that locker room. He made us the team that we were, right? By the work that he put in, that we just fed off of Coach. And I can truly say, I think all the guys in that room loved playing for him. Like, I'm sure there's some guys that didn't like you, Coach, but like you said, Strand came into his office yelling at him about being late to practice, but he fined him, right? Like, that's what I loved about him. If I came late or Strand came late, we both got fined the same. I never came late. I was always early. But like, he didn't have any favorites. He treated everybody the same, and we had one common goal was the win.
Yes.
Yeah. So back to the game. After the helmet catch, they had a 3rd and 11 at around the 24-25 yard line, and Eli threw that crossing pass to Smith, and he gets out of bounds and gets the first down. Was that the original play called, or did Eli check off on that one?
No, that was original. That was the play call. And if you remember the situation, 3rd and 11, you had Tyree, you had Steve Smith and Imani on the same side. Well, Steve was number 3. Imani comes off the ball and actually, not doing it on purpose, the defender runs into Imani, and it causes him to be behind Steve Smith, who's just running a flat route. Eli sees that, but he sees no immediate threat to Steve Smith in the flat and just turns and delivers the ball as fast as he can. And Steve has the presence of mind to catch the ball, turn up, and just, if you remember what it looks like, he darts out of bounds just past the first down mark. Yeah. And that was, our rookie class was phenomenal. And the way that Kevin Boss and Steve Smith and Ahmad Bradshaw, the way these guys played was, they played like they were 10-year vets by the end of the year because they had, gotten so much time. But that play by Steve was an incredible play, and that obviously allowed for the next play.
Mm-hmm. And the next play was the exact same play call, right, Coach? Something that I thought was very, and Rich could speak to this too. Kevin Gilbride, when he was here, took a lot of crap from people, and one of the things that you said that I thought was really on point was that there are 4 Lombardi trophies at the Giants headquarters, and Kevin Gilbride called every offensive play for 2 of those 4 Super Bowls. So, can you speak to that, Rich? What was it like?
Special coach, right? Like, I loved all my coaches, and yes, we always wanted him to run the ball more because I'm an offensive lineman, but he called a great game, right? He found a way to call plays that worked in the right time. So I'm glad he was, like Coach you said, right? 2 of the Super Bowls, he called all the plays. Pretty special.
Absolutely. That's another theme in the book is run-pass balance, which is kind of a lost art in today's NFL, but this is something the coach was always cognizant of. Are we maintaining balance? And one of the biggest plays of the game was that, it was a 45-yarder to Boss on the first play of the 4th quarter. And that play, Coach, you could speak to the details on that, but how does run-pass balance, how does that enable that play in terms of sucking up the linebackers and having that window to throw?
Play action pass. If you have balance and you're running the ball and it looks similar, very similar, it can't look completely because obviously you can't fire out. But if you keep yourself down, if you stay low, if you take those first steps in the same manner that you do in the run game, you can hold people to the line of scrimmage, and that's exactly what allowed Kevin Boss to be in a position and Eli to see the opening. And of course, Kevin's a big, tall guy, and the ball's thrown up high. He makes that play, and that's Rodney Harrison again.
Okay, I think we're basically out of time here. Just one final question from me, and this is to both of you. Do you guys see similarities between Eli and Daniel Jones, and are the Giants in good hands at quarterback now, like they were, for however many years years Eli played.
Coach, are you gonna go first?
Rich, you first.
I go first. Listen, there is no other Eli, right? In my mind, I like Danny Jones. I think he's going to be a good player. I think the Giants are going to re-sign him. They haven't re-signed him yet, have they?
Not yet.
I think they're going to re-sign him. I don't think he's going to ask for top 5 paid quarterbacks, right? Twitter guys, you know this. I think he's going to be the guy, and I think he's very down to earth. I think he's very similar to Eli. I think he's calm, cool, and collective. And I think if you get the right pieces around him, I think he can bring us a championship, right? I think they need a number 1 receiver. I think they need their offensive line to get a little bit better, right? They got a little better this year. Obviously, with Saquon at the running back, if they can give him a 10-year or keep him somehow for a year, their offense should be all right. So I think Danny just needs a couple more pieces, and I think he's going to be all right.
I like Daniel Jones. I've been in his company. He's a very intelligent young man. He's a hard worker. I watched the progress that he made this year. I thought it was outstanding. I think he has the ingredients today of the quarterbacks that put the most pressure on the defense, and that is that don't go in the game to run, but they can run. And in big spots, they will run. And when they do that, they cause the defense to have all kinds of problems, because if you're going to sit in there with somebody that's spying the quarterback just so that he can't run, you're going to have an awful lot of single coverage. That helps a lot. Okay? He, as I said, he has an excellent arm. He can run. He's very smart. And the thing about it is, you cannot win at this level by turning the ball over. You've got to have great ball security. It does happen, but when you're very conscious of it and you understand that other than points for and points against, it's the turnover ratio that allows people to win in the National Football League.
Okay, all right. We are out of time. You both have been extremely generous with your time, and and I really appreciate it. I'm sure our crowd does too. So thank you.
Thank you to all you folks for being here, for talking about the book, and for being interested. And we appreciate that very much. And Rich, thank you for your time and being here tonight and entertaining the folks.
All right.
Coach, thanks. You know I'd be here for you. And once you go off, I'm going to tell them all the good stories about you.
Stuff you couldn't tell in my face, yeah, okay.
All right, guys. Thanks so much.
You.
Thank you.
Appreciate everything.
Thank you.
That was amazing.